Michael Shore back on the Young Turks. Cenk is out because he's famous and it's the summertime. So we're covering up for him, and we have certainly a lot to cover in a little bit of time now. What's going on in Montana right now it's not shocking. It is appalling, but it's not shocking. There was an oil leak in the Yellowstone River, which runs through Laurel, Montana at part of its apex of, if that's what rivers have. I just invented that. But it does go through Laurel, Montana. There was an oil leak there, and Exxon, you'll be shocked to know, lied about what would happen when there was a leak, lied about what it would be like were there to be a leak, and of course lied about how far the leak is going to go. Montana Governor Brian Schweitzer is on the story, but let's tell you what happened at the beginning. This is what Schweitzer said. Well, let's listen to Schweitzer first. Let's see some of this devastation. Listen to Brian Schweitzer refer to skunks, which I like because you know you're from Montana when that happens. This is clip number 1. Well, no, it's not. I'm lying. It's clip number 2.
ExxonMobil today expanded its cleanup effort, putting more people in the field. There are 360 workers assigned to the spill as the giant oil company tries to figure out what went wrong with its pipeline.
I really can't speculate on what caused this. It was a very big surprise to us.
Look at that.
Montana Governor Brian Schweitzer toured the spill area today, observing the cleanup and promising landowners like Jim Swanson that he'll keep after ExxonMobil to get rid of the oil.
This cleanup is done when the state of Montana says it's done, nobody else.
Glad you're here.
And I promise you this, I'll personally be on this like smell on skunk until it's done.
Along another part of the riverbank,
I got about a mile of river frontage.
Bob Castleberry showed us his flooded home, his land reeking of crude oil.
It was a dream home. When we bought it, it was a dream home, and we wanted to stay here forever.
Now the house will be torn down, and Bob and his wife will have to rebuild on higher ground. The oil stain on the side of his garage is the high water mark from the flooding. Bob said he was shocked the night he first looked out at the smelly water surrounding his house.
I shined that spotlight out that front door on that side. That river was black with crude oil, just black with crude oil.
Yeah, it's not surprising. But, I love when the guy from Exxon says that we have no idea what happened. Here's what happened. The oil broke. The pipeline broke, and oil went all over the place. And everything that you said would have happened didn't happen. The reason it happened, whatever the reason it happened, there are natural reasons it would have happened. There's been a very high level of flow in that river, sort of more fierce water because of rain and runoff. I'm saying things that I never really talk about, rain and runoff. But all these things have happened, and still, you said that there were 12 feet of land between that and the pipeline. Everything would be fine. It turns out there were 4. The erosion, whatever that erosion was, caused this pipeline to break, to burst, and to go downstream. And of course, this is what they said. ExxonMobil came under fire on Wednesday from Governor Brian Schweitzer, who said the oil giant had assured Montana that any spill on the Yellowstone River could be shut off in a few minutes. This is what's amazing. It took nearly an hour for that to happen, 56 minutes to be precise, on July 1st, when this is the longest undammed river in the United States. There's a trivia question that'll get you nowhere. We were told that there were automatic shutoff valves and that it's not possible that it could run even a couple of minutes into the river before it shut off. Well, it turns out that the shutoff was not nearby. It was in Houston, and it took much longer. It drew 30 minutes and then 56 minutes. Some are saying as many as 58 minutes. And of course, they're saying initially that it wouldn't run much past where it was. Now they're saying they're seeing it 10 miles away, some 25 miles away, and Governor Schweitzer is saying that there are people that are seeing oil in North Dakota. And I don't know exactly the lay of the land there. But what's happening, of course, is that Exxon is not being totally honest. The oil companies not being totally honest. Why don't they just say, we screwed up, we got to clean this up, this is a disaster? When the river started to rise this spring and Laurel officials again said they were concerned. That's before any of this happened, after Exxon had assured them. They contacted ExxonMobil, were told by the company on June 1st that it was not at risk. It was buried 12 feet beneath the riverbed. Gary Pressing, who we saw, or Pressing, who we saw in that video, said that the company did not know where the 12-foot meter figure came from, but was looking into the matter. Well, good. I'm glad they're looking into it. That's going to be helpful when they figure out who said it was 12 feet. The point is, there's oil everywhere, and Brian Schweitzer seems to be on it, but he's going to be on it like smell on skunk. And I like that. You know you're the governor of Montana when you say smell on skunk. Can you imagine Jerry Brown saying that, or Andrew Cuomo saying it? I don't see that happening. But anyway, it's a disaster that's happening up there. It's affecting wildlife. Of course, it's going to have reverberating effects. But these are the kind of stories that have to be told over and over again. We see these are the companies that are getting the tax breaks. I mean, it all comes full circle. The people like Gary Prusing who have no accountability. These companies have zero accountability. They can say whatever they want. The pipeline goes down. I don't know where the 12-foot number came from. Pass the buck, pass the buck, pass the buck, but don't pay the buck. And that wasn't rehearsed when it comes to taxes. Let's move on to paying bucks and regulation and all of those things. Let's talk in a terrible segue about Mitt Romney. Mitt Romney is running for president. He was asked about the Dodd-Frank financial reform bill that was passed, a statute that was passed into law, and this is what Mitt Romney said. You would think that he doesn't like Dodd-Frank. It's financial reform. He came out of the banking industry. He came out of the Romney, Republican wing of the party. And so you're sure he's pretty articulate about why he doesn't like Dodd-Frank, as anyone who didn't like it would be. This is former Governor Romney. This is clip one.
Do you oppose all the provisions in the Dodd-Frank bill or just specific aspects of it, and would you try to repeal Dodd-Frank if you're president?
It's 2,000 pages. I'm sure there's something in there that's good, and I'd be happy to take a look and perhaps line by line at some point lay out the provisions that I think are unfortunate. But it is so massive that many of the people in the financial industry simply don't know what it will entail when all the regulation is completed. And these kinds of massive reworks of major industries cause those industries to retrench, and at the very time that we need them to step forward, they have pulled back. And so I'll give you more detail as the campaign goes on. But this bill was too overreaching and too massive, and has contributed to a slowdown in lending.
I love how all of a sudden the new rage among Republicans is to talk about how the bills are just too long. It's 2,000 pages. Herman Cain, running for president last week, said that if he were president, he promises there would be no bill longer than 3 pages. That is his platform. All that Romney had to know, yes, it was 2,000 pages, as is everything that comes out of Congress, because there is so much involved in creating a bill. But if you think it was overreaching, what about what they were trying to curtail? What about what they were trying to rein in? They were trying to rein in this overreaching abuse of a system. I mean, you could say it in 4 sentences. They were consolidating the regulatory, agencies. They were trying to put together consumer protection reforms. This bill did a lot to curtail what credit card companies could charge. It tries to offset and to prepare ourselves for future crises. I mean, this is not 2,000 pages, what I'm saying right now. If Romney looked at the thrust of this bill and had any idea of what it was, I mean, these are Republicans who look at something. Here it's Chris Dodd and Barney Frank putting it forward. It must be bad. I have to agree with it in a sort of a knee-jerk way. This is about protecting the people that he wants to lead, and Romney doesn't even know what it's about. These sorts of answers, these sort of far kind of meandering answers that Romney gives to so many of these questions, they're going to hurt him down the road. And each time I think of who the Republican nominee is going to be, and I think it's going to be at this point, I think that he's going to be the nominee at this point, there isn't one that I'm afraid of. I'm much more afraid of what our nominee isn't doing than what their nominees are doing. Let's talk about politics a little bit. Let's talk about electoral politics, and then we'll finish with Rupert Murdoch. Bill Clinton today, or yesterday, likened what is going on in states like Florida and New Hampshire to Jim Crow laws. What is going on in terms of keeping voters away from the polls. In Ohio this week, listen to what they did in Ohio. They're trying to have a law. They're allowing poll workers to not tell voters where their proper polling place is if they've made a mistake and gone to the wrong precinct. So you go to the wrong precinct, you get to that place, and they say, oh, you're not voting here. Where do I vote? I don't have to tell you. This is about inclusion. This is about one man, one vote, one woman, one vote. The GOP-led House in Ohio passed an election law overhaul that didn't have voter ID provision. However, the House tweaked the bill to weaken a law mandating poll workers to direct voters in the wrong precinct to their correct voting location. As the Cleveland Plain Dealer pointed out, mixing up precincts most often occurs in urban and impoverished areas of the state, leading turners to sarcastically suggest to Republicans, I guess the loss of votes for some doesn't matter. John Kasich, the governor of Ohio, has that bill on his desk, waiting to be signed. I mean, I'm sure it's not sitting there, but that's kind of how it works. Again, it is a blatant. It's blatantly trying to target the people who are least prepared to vote. Clinton likened it to the poll tax, likened it to say, okay, we'll give somebody a vote, but they have to be grandfathered in. If they can prove that their grandfather was from America, otherwise they're going to have to take a constitutional test. I've listened to a woman in Tuskegee, Alabama, tell the story about how she went to the poll 3 times when she was given the vote. She's probably 75 or 80 right now. And each time she went, the first time she went, they said, recite for me, please, the first amendment to the Constitution. She couldn't do it. The next time she went, recite for me the Third Amendment to the Constitution. She couldn't do it. She said she knew sort of what it was about, but verbatim they wanted. Third time she went back, she kept going back, and they said, recite the preamble. And she said to this group of us who were listening to her speak about it, she said, you know, Lionel Richie's mother was my music teacher. And the day we got to music class at the beginning of the year, each year, she taught us to sing the preamble. So she sat down there before this registrar and sang the preamble verbatim, and she got her voting card. And these are the kind of hoops that people are being made to run through. Can you imagine if you get to your polling place in Ohio, if you're in Cleveland, Ohio, and you go to vote, and by mistake, it's happened to me, by the way. I've gone to the wrong voting place, and I love to vote. I think voting's awesome, and I vote for, anytime there's something to vote on, I go. But if you go there and it's the wrong voting place, and I say, okay, I'm sorry, where do I go? I know where you go, but I'm not going to tell you, because I don't want you to vote, because I see you're a registered Democrat. I don't want you to vote. For that to be able to happen is astonishing. We are going to finish up very quickly with Rupert Murdoch. I really feel like this might be the dawn of the end of Rupert Murdoch. Finally, he's getting called out onto the carpet. He owns this world of the news and news of the world, and what they've done is they've done an astonishing amount of hacking into the voicemails of first celebrities and politicians, now to the victim, a 13-year-old murder victim. Now they're finding they did it to people who were this is all to get a scoop. This was all to get a scoop, hacking and erasing and listening to voicemails so that they could have a story. They did it to victims, relatives of victims of the 2005 bombings in London. Now they're finding that they did it to widows of British war dead. Rupert Murdoch is calling it deplorable. The person who runs his news, he's given a vote of confidence to. I don't know how they can't fire this woman. Finally, David Cameron, who is a friend of Rupert Murdoch's, who employed as his press spokesperson the former editor of a Murdoch paper. Cameron is finally saying that this can't go on. We have to have an inquiry. I love when they say we have to have an inquiry in England. Everything's an inquiry. But this is very serious. These allegations are serious. People are starting to pull ads from Murdoch-owned newspapers, from Murdoch-owned television stations. Ford has done so. Ford Motor Company, Halifax Insurance has done so. As people start to see this story wheel out of control, there are going to be new elements constantly that are going to put a poor taste in their mouth about the way that Murdoch and his empire do business. It's going to happen. It had to happen, and this is an ugly way for it to have to happen. I'm sure there'll be new news about it tomorrow, and we will be here to discuss that with you. I'm going to be, after the break, joined by Anna Kasparian to talk about things a little lighter than Rupert Murdoch and his problems. We'll be back on the Young Turks tomorrow. I'm Michael Short. Thanks for watching. Thanks to J.R. Jackson and Mark Register. We'll see you tomorrow.
Welcome back to TYT. Anna and Michael. All right, let's get right to the next story. Banks are now trying to find new ways to make money because they're slightly being regulated, right? The government is now, they've passed regulation when it comes to overdraft fees, and they've done things that make it more difficult for banks to rip us off.
Poor banks.
Okay, I know. I don't know what they're going to do. So,
Yeah.
of course,
they're like
finding...
teachers. You want them to be incentivized to make more money.
Now what they're trying to do is find, alternative ways of making money. So they're thinking, well, since we can't screw our customers over with overdraft charges, what we can do now is sell their data. Okay, and their shopping information. So for instance, if you are a person who likes to shop at Macy's and you buy a certain amount of shoes per month, they will sell that information to other stores that sell shoes, like for instance, Bloomingdale's or Nordstrom's or some other shoe retailer. And the shoe retailer is willing to pay a hefty amount of money for that.
Right.
So the banks that are currently doing this include Wells Fargo, Citibank, and Discover. Other banks are also planning on doing the same thing. And the way it works out is the banks are saying, look, we're not giving them your personal information. At least that's what they claim. They're saying that they give these retailers a code that identifies you, not by name, but just as, okay, anonymous person is number 236, and this person has spent $300 on shoes in the last 3 months. And they'll sell that information to a retailer that's looking for that specific information. The retailer then targets ads to you, whether it's through text message, email, or through bank statements that you read online.
And you can also opt out. I mean, part of the bank regulation said that you could opt out of programs like this when banks sell your information. The anonymity of it makes it a little less, it feels a little less invasive, but I don't think anybody likes even their habits to be, some people probably do. Some people who buy a lot of shoes at Macy's probably say, all right, I'm going to get a coupon for Macy's. Somebody, in what I read about it, talked about likening it to the Groupon phase, the fad with Groupon, except these are coupons that you might use, whereas if you have Groupon now and there's a radio sale and you don't want to buy a radio, then it's not helping you. But if you're a shoe buyer and you get a shoe coupon, all the better.
Yeah, to be honest with you, in this case, if there is true anonymity, and this is something that social networks do all the time, okay?
Yeah.
Facebook does this, Amazon does this. There are so many websites that do this now, where if you visit their page and you're searching for certain things, or Google, if you're searching for certain things, they will sell that information to a third party. So this is nothing new. It's the only thing that's new is now banks are doing it.
Right.
And banks know very detailed information about your spending habits. I don't think this is necessarily a bad thing, but the anonymity is the most important aspect of it. If it is anonymous and your personal information and your detailed information is not being given to these to the retailers or a third party, then I'm fine with it. I actually like getting coupons. So I like getting an email telling me that my favorite retailer has a 50% off sale and I should go check it out. That I don't mind, but I don't like
What's
the
your
idea.
favorite retailer?
I love Anthropology.
Okay.
Okay, do you know
I
Anthropology?
do know Anthropology.
What? Really?
What Anthropology?
Awesome.
I.e.
That's my favorite
course.
store on the planet.
I shop there sometimes. They don't have men's clothes. They used to have men's clothes, but I bought bowls there and things for the house.
Ooh, you fancy, huh?
Well, not that fancy.
They are fancy, though.
The bowls are fancy? They're
They always have
plain white
hand-painted
bowls.
hummingbirds on them.
No, mine are plain white bowls from Anthropology. They couldn't be less fancy.
Nice. I love Anthropology. My birthday's coming up, by the way, if you want to send me some gift cards. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Anthropology is huge. The store is too big.
I love it. Every time I go into that place, I think that store is the definition of femininity. That's why when you said you knew about it, I was like, that's a little questionable.
Well, I think you're wrong because they have nice bowls, plain white bowls. Do you have a favorite retailer, JR? No.
No, I can't say. It depends.
Mine used to be Jerry Cosby. They used to be at Madison Square Garden.
The hell is that?
It's a store that nobody ever heard of. They used to be at Madison Square Garden in New York. You could buy all your hockey T-shirts and your football team caps and stuff.
If there was ever a store that I would never step foot in, that would be it.
Jerry Cosby's?
Yeah.
That's great. You should try it.
Is that like, what's that? There's another sports apparel show. It's like two guys' names. I always want to say Ben and Jerry, but it's like.
Oh, I've been to Ben and Jerry many times.
I can't remember. It's all like college
Dave
apparel.
and Buster?
It's like Dave and something. Dave is one of the names.
I don't know Dave. No, there's Dick's. There's Dick's Sporting Goods, but no, that's just Jerry
Unfortunate
Cosby.
name.
No, but like a good place, like if you wanted everything, because you don't have a particular place, like Macy's Men's or something, you know, they have everything. You don't have to go around to several different places and fight for one thing that they don't have in your size. These places are bigger. Macy's
Shopping
Men's
tips
store.
with J.R. Jackson.
Make it happen. Don't go to Anthropology. Buy
JR,
those bowls.
have you ever fought with someone over an item at a store?
No,
ever?
hell no.
Okay.
No.
I don't think that actually happens in real life. The only time I've ever gotten close to being like catty about something is if I've gone shopping with a friend and the two of us eye the same dress at the exact same time.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, I don't want her to think she saw it first because I don't want her to buy it. I want to buy it.
That doesn't happen to men, though. Yeah,
I know.
It doesn't. It happened to me with my son. There was one old-fashioned glazed donut left at Starbucks one day. Literally, I'm not making this up. And Owen was talking, my son was talking to me about how he wanted this donut. And the woman in front of us knew that there was one donut right there. She knew that, yeah, exactly. She knew there was only one donut. And she heard, if you hear a little kid, even if you want that donut, she didn't need the donut. I'm not kidding. B, she went and she got the donut, and I said something, and I accused her of having heard my son say that, but I didn't want to go overboard because I didn't want my son to see me in this thing. She's like, "Oh, I didn't hear your son," but there are other. She didn't say that was the best thing. She didn't say, "But he can have it." It was like there are other things in the case, and she started talking to Owen about all the other good things that are there.
Oh, God.
It's unbelievable.
First of all, I'm very surprised that you said something. I don't think I would have said something because you're making the assumption that she heard
when
you.
you have a kid.
Yeah.
It changes the whole equation. Like your kid is disappointed,
I believe
so
you.
he cannot. The disbelief on his face is reach in and pull that donut out of the case. Anyway, we found something else. He was fine.
Poor Owen.
Yeah, I know. He probably doesn't remember it.
But I love that you do.
Yeah.
That was a great story. All right, a CEO in New Zealand has been fired after his comments on a radio program about women and the reason why they're being paid 12% less in New Zealand. So he made the argument that women are paid 12% less because they're less productive, and they're less productive because they menstruate every month.
Right.
That's literally what he said.
And
Get out of here.
yeah. Well, I mean.
By the way, okay, this is his argument, okay? So women menstruate every month, therefore they call in sick more often, therefore they should be paid less. First of all, I guarantee you not that many women call in sick every month when they're on their periods.
Right.
We're gonna be okay.
Right.
All right,
And
most
even if
women come to work, I swear to God.
Even if it were the case, right? Let's say it were the case that they called in sick every month, and let's say it were the case that because they menstruate, there's certainly their productivity is slightly behind because of whatever you want to associate with that. You should still pay them the same. That's because they're people
women
and
can't.
they're
Yeah,
afflicted.
women can't help it.
They can't help it.
Like, what are you gonna do? But that's just the way nature works. Okay,
Right.
we bleed every month, and we can't help it.
What if it's a commission-based job, and like, okay, we're selling cars, and then like this big wig comes in, or maybe you happen to hit certain guys that come in, you get to certain customer, but you're in the restroom on your cycle. Hey, sorry, I'm playing.
By the way, that's totally different. I mean, if you're working for commission, you're in charge of how much you get paid, basically. You have to sell a certain amount of cars or whatever it is that you're trying to sell. It works in a different way. But we're talking about people who are on salary. Women make 12% less in New Zealand. Right. And people will make this argument all the time. A lot of people don't think that this is a crazy argument. And they'll say, yeah, well, women get paid less because they become mothers and they have to take care of their kids. And because of that, they're less productive. So
I haven't gotten by you're in the restroom on your cycle. So I have no idea what you just said. I'm still stuck back there with JR. But no, you're right, and I think that we agree on that.
I mean, you go in the bathroom, it's a mess. Come on, dude.
Oh, man.
It's ridiculous.
That's disgusting. First of all, it is not a mess. Don't make women.
It was a great segment. It was a great segment. You had your glory in the segment. You were re-referred to, and then what happens?
I had to destroy it, man. Come on.
You totally destroyed it.
I don't think I should have been re-referred to. I had to destroy it. It was totally wrong.
I will never re-refer to you again.
One more story for you guys. There is a charity in Britain known as To Hatch, and what they're doing is they're having a lottery to award the person who wins the lottery fertility drugs. okay, or in vitro fertilization. So what they're doing is they're having people in Britain pay $20 or £20 each to enter this lottery, and the winner will get the fertility drugs or the fertility treatments in order to either conceive a child, or if she is unable to conceive a child, they will find a surrogate to conceive the child.
Right.
You know, they're willing to help out so this woman can be a mother. Now, people are outraged by this because they feel like it makes pregnancy cheap. But to be honest with you, I don't have a problem with it at all. I mean,
Right.
if this charity wants to have this lottery in order to raise funds for their charity and in order to help one person, I don't think the tickets are that expensive, £20. People can afford it. I don't think it's that bad. But personally, what I would do is I wouldn't enter a lottery. If I can't conceive a child, I would consider other options, like, I don't know, adoption. But that's just me personally. I know people want to have biological kids. I completely understand that. But I don't know. That's all I had to say.
I don't know.
about that.
I mean, listen, there are people that do this, though, whether you would do it or not, and it seems like a reasonable, way for them to raise money, and it's a cool grand prize if you get it. And there are women who would, who it's a very expensive process.
That is adorable.
That is fantastic. Yeah, and that could be yours for £20.
By the way, just real quick, just to give you numbers on how expensive it is to have a surrogate deliver your child. I have a friend who had cancer, breast cancer, and as a result of that, she had to remove her ovaries because it was going to spread, and it was a horrible situation. So now she's married, she's trying to have kids, and she needed to find a surrogate, she needed to find an egg donor, and the entire procedure is going to cost her around $140,000.
Wow.
And it's incredible. I mean, she had a whole fundraising thing where people helped her out, and I think she raised about $40,000. But that is so much money.
It's a crazy amount of money. It's
So
just
that's why I'm in favor of this charity
Yeah.
helping women out if they want to have biological kids. You know, it's very expensive. I understand that maternal instinct. I understand people wanting to have it. I'm saying personally, I wouldn't do it. I would just adopt if I really wanted to be a parent. But
Yeah, the outrage is what, based on the fact that they're doing it for fertility or surrogates? I mean, adoption. You pay for adoption too. I mean, it's a kid and you're paying money. If they're saying you're putting a price on this kid's head, it's not really the situation.
you're not buying the child. Yeah.
yeah, you're not buying exactly.
And then also people that are donating sperm, you're getting paid for that, or donating eggs, get paid for that. All this can be pointed out as trivial things. But, if somebody's trying to have a kid, let them have a way of doing it. If they can't afford it, they're helping them out. What's wrong?
One person who's against this is Josephine Cointevel, and she says, creation of human life should not be reduced to a public lottery. Instead of this, shouldn't more be spent on research into fertility problems? That's her argument.
Yeah. This does not mean that money is not being spent on research into fertility problems. I love when people are saying, shouldn't we be doing more for this? Well, we are doing plenty, I'm sure, and yes, we could be doing more, but this does not take away from that.
Agreed.
People need to calm down a little bit.
We're out of time, guys, but thank you for watching. Michael will be back tomorrow to do the show, same time as today, 9 p.m. Eastern Time with the Political Hour. And we will not have a post-game show today. We have to film ads for T-Mobile again. I'm not bitter, I swear. But we'll see you guys tomorrow.